In this unit, we're trying to describe an object's position or its location and how that location might change. But in order to do that, we need other objects to compare it to. And the other objects that we use to compare or describe an object's location is called our frame of reference. So our frame of reference is a set of objects that we use to describe something else's position. Set of objects used to describe a location. And we choose our frame of reference to be whatever we need it to be. If we're traveling in a bus down the road and we want somebody to pass us back our Game Boy or whatever, then we say, hey, pass my Game Boy back 3 seats, and we know that you're 3 seats back from where your Game Boy is. If you're trying to describe to somebody how to get to the broken down bus, you say, hey, we're 4 miles west of Cozad. So you can make the bus your frame of reference, or you can make Cozad your reference point to describe where you're at. So our frame of reference we pick for convenience to help us describe something's location. And actually, to describe something's location, we need 3 things, and we call this position. So position is actually distance, that's one thing we need, and direction from a reference point. Now, a reference point is just our starting point in our reference frame that allows us to all agree on where we're starting from, so we know where we want to get. So the 3 things we need to describe a position are a distance, a direction, and a reference point. Now, this can sometimes be a little bit more complicated than we think, but let's just explain why we need that. If this is my starting point, if this is my reference point, and I say go 10 meters, well then you could end up any spot that's 10 meters from that reference point. You don't know which direction to go. If I just say walk north, you're going to keep going this way. You don't know how far to go. But if I say walk 10 meters north, then you know you're going to end up right here. And I've completely described this thing's position relative to my reference point. Now, there are a couple different ways to describe position. So let's take a look at maybe using a graph. And let's make these square. And let's make this just a little bit smaller. Okay. We've seen graphs before in math class and maybe on maps where we use these to describe or list something's position. So if I start, I can put my reference point wherever I want. So let's make this my reference point. I'm going to call that RP. And let's put a few other locations on it. I'm going to put a location here. I'm going to put a location here. And I'm going to put a location here. And I'm going to put my last location here. And let's say that this is location 1, this is location 2, this is location 3, this is location 4. If I want to describe those things' positions, I'm going to say how far and in what direction from the reference point they are. So position 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Let's say each one of these squares is a meter. So position 1 is 4 meters right. But I don't necessarily have to say it that way. I could say positive 4 meters, since we understand positive 4 means to the right. Position 2 could be 1, 2, 3, 4 meters up. I could also say positive 4, and this is why we have issues sometimes with using plus and minus. Does positive mean to the right, or does positive mean up? If you only have an option of left or right, then we can use plus and minus. If we have the options of right and up, then we should use right and up, so we know exactly what we mean. So position 3, you could say 2 meters left. You could also say negative 2 meters. It is okay to have a negative position. Usually it means it's 2 meters behind or beneath, I guess, the reference point. So position 4 would also be 2 meters down or negative 2 meters. Again, only use the sign if you're moving in one direction. If you have just a left and right or just an up and down. Okay. Now, there's one more thing I want to take a look at while we're on this page. Let's say that somebody started from the reference point, walked over to position 1, up to position 2, over to position 3, and finally ended at position 4. So they made this whole big journey. We can describe 2 different things about that journey. We can describe distance, which is how far they walked, how far. something traveled, but we can also describe displacement. And displacement is not the same thing. So first, let's get distance. Distance, they walked 4 meters here, plus 4 meters there, plus 6 meters here, right? 4, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2. So I have the total distance that they traveled is 4 plus 4 plus 6 plus 6 plus 2, which is 22 meters. That's how far they walked. But that wasn't the fastest way. If I want to describe just where they ended up compared to where they started, I would say they started here and they went this way. They went 2 meters down. So that's my displacement. Displacement is distance from start to end with direction. So the displacement in this example is 2 meters down. It tells me how do I get to where the end point is. I don't care what path I take, I just want to end up in the same end point.